Welcome everybody, thanks for tuning in for another review from the 2023 EMTB Shootout presented by Fox Racing and Schwalbe Tires. Today we're going to be reviewing the Scor 4060Z ST XT. I made it? Oh yeah, I made it, all right. So last year in the shootout, we had the 160 version of this bike, which I know you loved. A lot of us really enjoyed for the fun and playful demeanor. This year we've got the 140, 150 front travel version. It has a Shimano EP8 drive unit with a 720 watt-hour battery and is, I would say, equally fun and playful out on the trails. Before we get in too deep to the ride impressions, Robert, take us through the geo, please.
Yeah, so Scor went on the definitely the playful side of things with the geometry on this thing. You've got 65.5 degrees head tube angle, 78 degree effective seat tube angle, although the actual angle is slacker than that. So if you're tall like me, you do end up slightly further off the back than that might suggest. 436mm rear end, 1235mm overall wheelbase, and the 27mm BB drop. And then the reach on this size large is 485mm, and the stack is 625.
Okay, so two things geo-wise that I'd like to touch on. Chain stays.
Short. Shortest
in the group.
Yeah.
Definitely makes for a playful bike. Actually, they're very close with the Fazari, which is a 170mm bike, and we'll be sure to compare that because that bike is also extremely playful. But another one to talk about, I think, is the 342 bottom bracket height. For me, I found climbing, at least compared to like the Giant, which is also in this 140 category, I found myself hitting a little bit more on this bike. Did either of you guys have those issues?
I didn't. I mean, I hit more on the Giant.
Okay. Okay, Robert?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Okay.
It's not
overly low for you though?
Not overly low, no. But okay. I think, yeah.
Acceptably low for the intended application.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Overall performance, ride quality, Sean, what did you think?
I mean, like you said, it's very similar to the LT that we had last year. It keeps that playful, wants to just pop and just go fast and just have fun. One of the things that I noticed though when we were climbing up at one of the trails where it got super steep, it was very hard to keep the front end weighted while also keeping traction going. Okay. I know Robert was doing a very long wheelie up one of the climbs next to me on this thing.
Yeah, I think when it gets super steep, it is, like Sean said, super hard to keep the weight down on the front wheel. Yeah, I think I set a new PR wheelie record uphill on this thing without really meaning to.
I think probably worth saying you're 6'2",
yeah.
6'2" as well?
On a good day.
Okay, so this is a size large, so they're probably on the taller end of the size spectrum. So, you know, I'm at 5'11", my seat was a little bit lower than theirs was, so I think, as you mentioned, right, that seat tube angle, it just goes back the taller it gets, and then combined with the really short chain stays, it is gonna have you fighting. Also got a crazy short Berg's Tech stem on there.
Yeah.
Which is a whole lot of fun when it comes to descending or even flatter trails where you're just snapping around corners.
That's it. I think if you're not climbing up something super steep often, we'll get onto the descending next.
Yeah.
But that short chain stay just comes into its own for sure.
Okay. So suspension platform. Let's talk on that.
Yeah, as we've kind of alluded to, it's a poppy and playful bike, but I still think it packs quite a lot of capability. I didn't find myself really struggling when I was pushing it hard down some of the downhill tracks that we were riding. You do just have to be a little bit more active to place the bike where you want it to be. But yeah, it can take a good big hit, I reckon.
Okay. Something that we found last year on the LT with 160mm is that it was similar to a VPP feeling, like, you know, the Santa Cruz Heckler, a little bit rough off the top, not quite so supple and sensitive. And we were concerned, frankly, that the 140 bike would have those, but possibly even more notable on the square edge hits. Did you feel that to be the case on this bike?
Not descending, I don't think. I mean, I was a little jittery climbing on some of the rocky terrain, but I mean, I just felt that I was just bouncing more like just playing down the trail versus like
hammering through the stuff. Okay.
It's definitely not a bike that kind of convinces you or encourages you to dip your heels and just plow through the rough stuff.
Right.
Instead, you're going to hit the first rock, try and pop the whole thing.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that is true, and I think for for riders who are comfortable doing that, it will reward. For riders who maybe aren't the type that see the first rock and want to gap as far as they can into that rock or root field, it is going to be a little bit stiffer, a little more feedback, hang up, deceleration can be felt. That can be combated by running a little bit more sag, a little softer suspension. Again, that is also going to drop your BB even more, making the climbing or traversing over very tall or even not so tall obstacles something to consider. But overall though, this bike impressed me a lot. I had a ton of fun on it, and man, it just, like you said, the short chainstays, that lively poppy suspension platform, it was a bike that wanted to be in the air, changing directions as much as it wanted to be on the ground.
It feels super light as well. Overall weight, what did we say was 51.4?
51.4 pounds.
Yeah, which is definitely on the lighter side of things. And yeah, you really feel that on the trail. One thing I did note is that the rear end, as with some of the other Scors that we've tested, isn't the stiffest thing in the world. That is not a problem for the majority of riding, but if you do push a turn real hard or hit an off-camber compression or something, you can feel that back end just dancing around a little bit more than on some other bikes, I think.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me too, we had issues with last year's bike hardware coming loose, and you can see just being as sleek and stealthy, which looks great aesthetically, it was really hard to get into and tighten a lot of those hardwares. It looks like maybe they're using a new thread locker. We haven't had anything coming loose on this rear end, so that is a definite plus, and good news for sure. So overall, what do you guys think of this bike? A solid option?
Definitely, especially if you're a playful person. I mean, it's no wonder that Loose Dog is riding a Scor right now.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think they embody fun with all their bikes. Every time I've hopped on the Scor, I've had a good time. It's just maybe not the racer's pick, not the most comfortable bike out there.
Sure.
But yeah, for getting to the bottom of a trail and having a smile on your face, you can pretty much guarantee it with all the Scor bikes I've tested so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so if that's your thing, if you enjoy playing, slapping a bike into a corner and airing over the rough stuff, definitely a bike worth considering. Obviously there are some more affordable builds and offerings in the lineup, but definitely a fun bike. Probably not the one I would pick for charging through square edge, repeated hits, roots or rocks, whatever it might be, but nevertheless a fun bike all the same. Thank you guys very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. This will be going up against 12 other bikes in our shootout this year as we have our final discussion in our roundtable coming up next. So stay tuned. We'll see you in the future videos. Thanks.